company as a brand, department does not matter. So when you have a recession, it is good time to break those barriers, silos, and make sure people take more responsibilities. Okay, one more thing. Again, a lot of times when sacking happens, bosses' favorites are never sacked. There are some people who are never sacked. So again, you can read it. So one thing, talent is not about degree. It is not about which institute you pass out from. We have examples of people who have not had a formal degree. All of us have a formal degree, but that does not mean I am learned, I have talent. Can we define and measure these factors? Yes, you got things such as competencies, you got things such as behavior, psychometrics, using which we define talent. I'm just running through these because I can share the slides with you later on. I'll now look at a case study in our financial sector. This was one of our clients. Now, they had lost bancassurance business of theirs, which was serving as a huge chunk. Now, having lost that business, they were shutting down businesses. At that point in time, yes, the HR people, a lot of them play a strategic role. They said, why should I just be sacking people because I'm closing down a branch? So what they did was, they looked at and they said, we are going to look at our talent need today, look at our talent need in future, do an assessment. Just because somebody is in an unprofitable branch, I'm not going to sack those people. So we did the assessment, we scientifically assessed them. They put them in 4 areas, what they called as MERD, maintain, invest, realign, and divest. Divest were the people, they said, anyway, their performance is poor, they don't have the potential, I can still, I can do away with them. However, there were also certain people who were, just because of the virtue of the fact that they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, but they had potential, they moved them. And they also said, it makes business sense for me. I have hired somebody, that person has potential. If I were to sack this person, just because the person is a branch which is not performing well, tomorrow I need to hire more people when growth comes in. Can I use these people and save on my investment in training in future? Again, we had a team case study in an automotive company where originally they said, it does not matter, anybody can sell. We proved to them that, people who perform well, people who are strong performers, if you look at them and if you look at the cost and the return, it is significantly more than the non-performers. Okay, what you need to do is you need to understand and find out, when you look at all these reorganization, which quadrants do your people fit in. One of the last examples that I'll take off is a client of ours which started with making fasteners for bicycle. Over a period of time they have done well, and now they've got an order from Airbus. Now fasteners are screws. Now when I was sitting with the promoter, he said, there's a huge difference. If a fastener from a screw or a car falls, it's still okay. But you can never ever expect a fastener to come out from a Boeing. And he said, this has to be explained to my team and they can't really seem to understand it. They say, sir, I know the tolerance. I know what a Honda, what will work in a Honda. He said, but you don't know what will work in an aircraft. Because aircrafts will continue to work for 30 years. They will continue to fly for 30 years. They are built for life. Now that's where we sat and we did a lot of post-assessment work in terms of attracting and recruiting talent, because for them that was a challenge. We ensured people were given rigorous year-long working. So we followed the 70-20-10 principle where we said, okay, training is 10%. You learn, you will observe from the best of the people. And I've got a signal. And of course, 70% of the learning was on the job. So the second last slide says, the right people are your greatest assets. This was one of the previous slides. People are not your greatest assets, right people are. So get them, and most importantly, you retain them. And last slide is, in the good times, efforts also get rewarded. I have money, I am liberal with my money. However, in the bad times, only results get rewarded. Thank you. I was the last one, so I took the luxury of stretching it.
Yeah, thanks, Yogesh. Pretty interesting stuff that you presented. Good punchliners and all that. Thanks to all the speakers. I don't intend to summarize the discussions because they were crystal clear. So we've been able to catch up with a lot of time, almost 45 minutes we've been able to catch up. So now I'll throw open the session for question and answers with one rider that please ask a question. If you have any observations, comments, brilliant idea, we can always discuss it over lunch because I think all of us are going to be there. So ask questions, make it brief and make it to the point. And we'll take few questions. Open for the question. Tell your name, tell the name of the session speaker to whom you want the question to be addressed to.
My name is Divya. I represent an organization called MART. We are into rural consulting. I wanted to ask Mr. Garg and Mr. Goswami, any in-house innovative models that have helped you remain competitive in the market? If you could just share those examples with us, please.
My own personal feeling is creativity, innovation, while there's a lot of value to that, but there's a lot of value also to inheriting best practices that other companies have come with. So one example, we are in a very volatile industry, durable industry. It's cutthroat competition. So what works or has worked well for us is customer centricity. So HR again drives that process where every employee really spends a day in the market and actively tries to sell a Whirlpool product. What it does is it builds all kinds of mindset changes. You start understanding the margins that we make in the products we sell. You start understanding that the consumer looks for 100% perfection in craftsmanship. When I talk about craftsmanship, I'm talking about how a product will appear on the face of it. You start understanding that you need to have a differentiated product that will stick out compared to competition. So all we have tried to do is get every employee in our company once a year to spend a day in the market. We also get them to pick up the phone in our customer service department. So every employee, whether HR, finance, supply chain, will spend time with dealing with an irate customer, somebody who paid good money for what he believes is a good product and did not get what he was expecting. It's very humbling experience. So these are some of the interventions. I can't claim this is an original thought. I know there are other companies that do that. But culturally, it really helps our business to build that mindset change, the cultural shift.
Just to add on maybe to answer your question, normally it is said that people productivity is key to success. And how do you increase the people productivity? They have a formula that you have a people engagement. And I personally say that people engagement is just not fun at workplace or a calendar or an engagement calendar that you do for your organization. It's a very, very holistic model. One of my article talks about a 5P. So we talk about people engagement is proportionate to people dialogue, people development, people processes, and people passion. If that answers your question, it leads to people productivity.
Yes, please. Can somebody?
Hello. I am Himanshu. I represent a company called Right Advisors. It's a HR consulting firm, 4 years old. I struggle with a situation when we say of redesign or re-architecture, that a lot of ideas come to my mind, a lot of ideas comes to my team's mind, and every time there is a new idea or there is a new change or change itself we want to bring in, the question comes, is it too early? Are we trying to redesign it too many times? And if maybe Dr. Chavla could help me understand, how do we as a company balance it so that it's neither too late or it's not too quick?
See, if you have an idea, the only thing you should do is don't fall in love with the idea, dissect it very dispassionately. And I believe when the idea comes, it's typically a spark which gives you that idea. So go for it. And all those people who have really gone for it, I mean, you think of the history of various industries, I mean, whether it was, let's say, the traveler's checks, I mean, I'm going as old as how many years, I don't even remember. What happened when Amex kind of came up with the first traveler check. because their CEO was traveling and he just couldn't carry all that cash, and he carried a check, and then he realized that he was in a long queue where he had to encash that check in a different country. So that is when the thought process of the traveler's checks came in. Or you look at any of these razor and blade models and all. It was a thought that let's have, whether you call it printer and cartridge or you call it blade and razor, Gillette. I mean, these were thoughts which came and the companies didn't really take any time. I think that applies to the large organizations as well as a startup like yours. Go for it.
Thank you so much.
Can I just
At the most you will fail, nothing more than that.
Yeah, I want to add a perspective to what Dr. Chawla is saying. And it's an interesting question. We struggle with this every day. We are a products company, so what time is right to put? And capital is always frugal, so you have to have a well-considered decision. I think the answer really lies a lot in investing in what your customer, consumer wants. So looking at it from, and he was absolutely right, astute on saying, don't fall in love with your idea. That's very dangerous. I think that data exists. Just like marketing, you start doing customer segmentation. You start understanding what your customer wants. Sometimes it's articulated or unarticulated need, desire, requirement of a customer. Similarly in HR, answers to HR policy really lie with your employees, right? The more you talk to them, interact, and more you do workforce segmentation, I think it comes. So one tip I would say is look at who's willing to pay big bucks for that service, right? So while the idea to you may sound good, let the customer decide.
Business School. I just want to ask one question. You know, most of the companies today are talking about minimizing cost, right? Even though being most profitable companies and all that, right? But some way or the other, is this doing right? Because some way or the other, the employees are actually paying that cost. Because see, majority of them, if they're not able to generate revenues, they say, okay, let's minimize the cost, but then some way or the other, we are able to generate a lot of profits and all. But I believe that ultimately at the end of the day, it is the employees who are making a lot of compromises, and some way or the other, the profits are, the costs are coming down to employees only. You know, by reducing maybe training and development, or maybe by freezing hirings or some other thing and all. Is it right to do that?
Whom do you want to answer this?
Especially to the person from Whirlpool, sir.
Okay.
I'm the lucky guy. I'll give you a perspective. I can't claim this perspective is right. It's like quality and cost, you would hear, is an oxymoron, right? People say quality and cost. The more you invest in quality, the higher your cost. I don't believe that's true, right? Similarly, you can have various opportunities of saving cost, which I call waste in the system, and removing that without costing the employee in terms of their morale or motivation. No company in the right mind reduces compensation, right? What the company does is, what you can control. I mean, I can get into a macroeconomic theory here. Your raw material pretty much is at par with your competition, right? What you pay as wages to your talent is also at par with your competition. You can't pay less than market and expect the right kind of talent, right? What you sell your product for is determined not by you, but by external forces, market. What you control is really the only waste in the system. What is waste? Opportunities of engaging with the employees to removing cost from your business operations. And I can get into manufacturing backend, how we actively engage with our employees to look at ideas how to reduce my per unit cost. And on the front end, I do the same thing. What I can control is not reducing somebody's wages, because wages is like property. You don't touch or mess with somebody's wages. What you can control is, as opposed to, growing your head count, if your volume line is not growing, your revenue line is not growing, why should your cost line grow? Somebody said that. Either you save 10 jobs or it will cost you 1,000 jobs. So what you control is, if you have an exit, you ask some hard question. Can I multitask? Can I have, 2 people doing 3 persons' jobs? And be fair to them. Still pay them a 10, 15% more. But overall, to the organization, you are still reducing cost. Cost is not about cutting somebody's salaries. Cost is not about layoff. Cost is being smart, and removing waste from the system. Tell me if the income in your family was coming down for some reason, or your cost due to some unforeseen event, like take a big fat hospital bill, what would you do? Would you still go out to eat? Will you still take a holiday in Thailand? You'll be prudent, right? So that's all we are saying. Run this company as if it's your own company. Why is your budget in the family any different than the company's budget? Why should you not be transparent when you talk to the employees that my volume line is not coming, I'm not going to trim your wages, but I depend on you as my family members to come up with ideas, how can I mitigate cost?
Maybe just to add on, I spoke on cost control as well, on the accelerated continuous improvement, reducing cost by 40%. But let me tell you, there is a limit to growth paradigm. You must understand, if you are reducing cost and all, and end of the day, your excess fat and all, you can lead to a lean and flat organization. And once you have become lean, then thereafter you cannot be more leaner, right? So there is a limit to growth paradigm, beyond which only growth is an answer.
Any more questions, or people are too, okay, yeah, there's a.
I'm Shalini here, and I'm from Banarsi Das Institute, working there as an assistant professor. I would like to address this question to Mr. Banerjee. With due respect to you and